Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm joined by two special guests today. I have here with me Julie Ball and Carol Gavhane, and this is going to be a great case study for our acquisition series because you'll get to see both sides of the deal, both the buyer side and the seller side. So I was super thrilled when Carol and Julie agreed to my last minute idea of, hey, let's bring you both on for a double-sided interview. And just for those of you who haven't met either one before, Julie is a fractional partnerships and growth strategist. She helps online business owners grow through strategic partnerships and build the funnels and systems to back it up. And then Carol, you guys actually probably have seen Carol around our premium subscriber group chat. You also have experienced her beautiful boxes at our event last fall at Bloom Together. Carol is the co-founder of Arrivée, a curated quarterly subscription box for high-achieving women built on the belief that rest is a strategy, not a reward. And alongside her husband, Amar, Carol evolved their business from Sparkle Hustle Grow, which she bought from Julie originally, into something deeply intentional, a box designed to help women pause, recenter, and continue with a thoughtful book, premium products, and a quiet reminder that a luxurious moment to yourself doesn't make you soft, it makes you sharper. I love that. And Carol, I've actually gotten to experience both sides, the Sparkle Hustle Grow box and then also your newest Arrivée box. So congratulations to both of you on the beautiful legacy you've built together.
Thank you so much.
Thank
so exciting
you.
to be here together, all of us.
Exactly.
Yes. Super excited to have you both. Let's actually start kind of from the inception of this deal. So Julie, you had grown Sparkle Hustle Grow for a number of years. What made you decide, hey, now is the time to exit? Was there any specific event that kind of was a catalyst for that? Or was it just a gradual decision that you decided to pursue?
That's a great question to start with. It was not built to sell. It was definitely a gradual decision. And I started thinking about it a year before the actual acquisition happened, just started dabbling in what would this even look like? I had never sold a business before, so my natural tendency is to learn all the things. Like, how does this work? Educate myself. And throughout probably about 6 to 9 months, I started doing my research, reached out to a broker who ended up representing me, which was a good idea for me because I didn't know what I didn't know. And she was able to walk me through it. A lot of times I will grit through something and I'll learn it and do it myself. But this just felt like there was too much room for error for a big deal. And so I did engage with a broker, and there was this moment that I had in my gut. Your listeners probably have had this before in one way, shape, or form, whether that was when they were still working in corporate America or if they knew that they were in a partnership or a business that no longer fit them. And I started getting that feeling, and I started to feel myself less excited about it and less engaged in it. And it was a full-time job. So I could see that and I could feel that. And then the other part of it that was a very big part of it was we homeschool. And my daughter was about to go into middle school. And I knew as a young woman that she was going to need her mom there more and more, especially as we tackled harder subjects in school, as we tackled the hard things about being a teenager. And so that was an intentional decision as well, because I lead our homeschool at this point. So yeah, it was a variety of things. It did not hit me one night where I woke up the next day and I'm like, I'm going to sell. It was a variety of things that just felt like the perfect storm.
Well, I feel like an interesting thing that you just brought up, Julie, is that you said this business wasn't built to sell. So I'm curious, did you have to actually implement anything in your business to get it ready to sell? Or did you kind of just recognize, okay, like I didn't build it from the get-go with this outcome, so maybe I'm going to get, a little bit less than I would have had I built it differently, but you were at peace with that and okay with still going to market that way? Just kind of curious what your approach was from that little tidbit you shared.
Sure. I credit my broker with really walking me through it and instructing me how to prepare my business for sale. Because again, this wasn't something I was familiar with. And some of the things that she walked me through was, her phrase was trimming the fat. So that was, any software that I didn't need, any even team members that weren't essential to the business. She asked me that question. And I know that's a book too, Essentialism. She's like, what is essential to run this business? Forget about the shiny object syndrome, about maybe you've chased this or you've chased that, you've implemented these campaigns. What is absolutely essential? What software do you need to run the business? What team members do you need? And so I worked through that. Another thing that I really had to work through was, of course, SOPs. If I was going to hand over the keys to someone, I needed to show them how to run the business. And because it had been such a small team, just myself and a handful of people over the years, we all kind of knew what we were doing and we just did our work and we didn't take the time to put together those SOPs. So there was a lot of work in preparation, looking at those things that we did. Like, is this essential? Do we need to be doing this in the business? If so, let's create the SOP for it so it's easy to duplicate, easy to hand over. Created a lot of templates. So it was kind of like, the way I looked at it was putting it all together in a pretty package with a bow so that I could hand it over to Carol.
That makes complete sense. And Carol, I'll get to a question on your discovery of this listing in just a moment. But Julie, from the time that you made the decision to move forward on selling your business and hired your broker to when you actually listed it for sale, because like you said, in between you did these additional things, right, to make the sale of it more appealing, like the SOPs and creating and trimming the fat. How long in between was that phase before it actually went public?
Okay, glad you're sitting down for this one because our deal actually closed in 90 days, which is very fast.
Very rare. That's so
very,
cool.
very fast. It was just the right timing for Carol and her family, and it was the right timing for mine, and the broker expedited everything. But prior to that, I would say I started engaging with the broker about 3 to 4 months in advance of the deal going live, per se, and it being out in the public as an available asset to purchase.
If you own a salon, spa, med spa, wellness studio, or really any service business that runs on appointments, you've probably found yourself in this catch-22 before. The better your business does, the more you and your team are drowning in admin. More clients means more scheduling, more follow-ups, more marketing, and less time doing the work you actually love. That's exactly what Gloss Genius was built to fix. It's an all-in-one system that handles your booking and scheduling, payments, client and staff management, marketing, and more, so you can spend more time on what you love and less time running the back end of your business. Gloss Genius even has AI agents working for you around the clock with intelligent automations that drive rebookings before clients even leave and marketing campaigns that bring in 5-star reviews without the awkward asks. The proof is in the numbers. Businesses using Gloss Genius earn 26% more revenue in year one, average 75% rebooking rates, and get back 40 hours a month saved on admin work. Join the 125,000 plus businesses already using Gloss Genius today. Use code CEO at glossgenius.com for 50% off your first 2 months of a premium plan. Again, the code is CEO at glossgenius.com for 50% off your first 2 months of a premium plan. The clickable link is also below in the show notes. Okay, that's super helpful to know because I think that's a piece that our listeners will probably wonder, like, okay, if I have this inkling to sell a business, how much time do I need to give myself to prepare it properly? Now, Carol, when you came into the equation, had you already been actively looking for a business to purchase with your husband and you just happened to stumble upon Julie's, listing or deal, or were you specifically seeking out a subscription box type of business to purchase and then you got connected through the broker? I'm just curious how you initially discovered that this was available.
Yeah, that is such a good question. So we were in the midst of kind of thinking about our next step. And what would that look like? Would that look like, because we actually ran a small jewelry business together, my husband and I, and we have corporate backgrounds. So this goes like way back. And we were just a little bit of an exploratory stage of, do we pause the jewelry business? Do we continue on? What do we do with that? And then what's kind of our next step? So just perusing the internet, there is this website. I don't know if your listeners have heard of it. It's called Biz by Sell.
That's where I found the business that I acquired. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. It is this crazy antiquated looking website that has no bells and whistles at all about it. It's like the Craigslist for businesses, really, right? It's
That's
just
exactly
a bunch
how I
of
would
listings.
describe it.
Oh my goodness. And so I would just go there to kind of, I think, do a mix of both like daydreaming and then visualizing like what would the next step look like. And I saw this listing for a subscription box business for women entrepreneurs. And, it didn't have the name. It didn't have Sparkle Hustle Grow. It had all of that was kind of wiped away. And I sent it to my husband and I just thought, this could be interesting because as someone who's already in entrepreneurship, I'm already consuming this information. Number one, like I'm already like thinking about personal growth and development and all of the things that, were on this listing. I'm like, I'm already doing it and living it and breathing it. So this could be something to kind of look into. And I remember my husband at first was like, absolutely not. We are not going to look into a subscription box business and he listed all these reasons why. And I was like, I hear you, but let's just maybe just get some more information. And so we did, just to kind of see a little bit like, I feel like selling a business and buying a business is kind of like real estate. Like,
100%.
The broker helps you get ready to kind of stage and put like your best foot forward. And it's real numbers though. This isn't like staging, I'm using air quotes here, but it's like real numbers, but you're putting together kind of your best. And then you're going in as a buyer and you're looking around and you're seeing, could this really like fit my life? And is this something that I would be interested in and all of the things? And so we dug a little deeper and then we finally got connected with Julie. I will say this, that when we initially inquired, got some information, it's a process. So you have to go through kind of a screening situation where they first want to know a little bit about you. What are you currently doing? Why are you interested in this business? And then I think there's like some kind of a phone interview. So that's like another screening. And then it's like, then you can actually meet the owner if they want to at that point. I think that's between the broker and seller, but it took us a little bit to finally meet Julie. And I think they want to vet and to make sure that, as the broker, they're doing their due diligence as well.
Yeah. They're the gatekeeper.
Yes,
Yeah.
because especially on a brokerage website like Biz Buy Sell, at least from what I've heard from friends who have sold through that platform, you get a lot of tire kickers. You get a lot of looky-loos who are just, wasting your time essentially. And so it makes sense that there are those additional filters in place to ensure like, you're a qualified buyer, you're truly interested and whatnot. I did have a question actually about your listing itself. I don't know if either one of you remember clearly, but Biz Buy Sell, a lot of the businesses that are listed on that platform tend to be like in-person businesses, either brick and mortar or in-person services that are specific to a region or location, right? Obviously, Sparkle Hustle Grow is a worldwide business. Anyone could have purchased a subscription box, right? And been part of that community. And so when you listed, Julie, do you remember, did you have any sort of location tied to it, or was it listed fully remote? And then Carol, when you were searching for businesses, were you searching by area, like what was close to where you live, or were you exclusively searching for businesses that were not tied to a specific location?
If I remember correctly, we did not tie it to a location. I don't know about when she actually listed it, but in the description, multiple times, it says it was location independent. And we had gone from a variety of warehousing at home and warehousing off-site before. So really, it could have been run either way. So for
Right.
example, Carol could have purchased it and then had a warehouse do all the fulfillment, and she could just run the back end of the business. So it really was flexible. And I want to point out too that Biz Buy Sell was only one of the marketplaces that my broker had listed on. She listed on multiple marketplaces. She had her own kind of hot list of buyers. So she was sourcing from multiple places. And that was one of the big selling points for me, that one, she was responsible for finding the buyer.
Yeah.
I did negotiate, however, if I found the buyer from my own network, that the commission would be adjusted. So that's a little fun thing. And then two, she was that gatekeeper for me because they do get so many inquiries. I remember, Carol, you probably had to sign an NDA. You had to share information about yourself. And then she financially vetted people before they got to me as well.
Mm.
That way I wasn't having to do 20 or 30 calls. I did less than 10 calls as I was vetting people, or it was almost a two-way interview. Carol was looking at, asking me questions about the business, and I was asking her questions about not her intentions, because, once it was hers, she could do with it what she wanted. But I wanted to make sure that it was a good fit for the business.
Absolutely. And Carol, in your search process, do you have any recollection of any specific filtering you were using to find businesses of interest?
Yeah. So I used both. I was just in such a discovery phase. So I was looking at brick and mortars here locally just to see what is out there. What the heck are people actually selling? What does a brick and mortar even go for? And of course, it varies, right? You have everything from like the grandfather shop that's selling little tchotchkes to like multi-million dollar, like subcontracting kind of businesses. I mean, it just runs the gamut. And then I also looked at, well, what could a digital business also look like? I had a product-based business before, but because I could ship anywhere in the US, I was sort of familiar with that cadence, if you will. So
Yeah.
I was kind of looking from two different angles.
That makes complete sense. And actually, before we get further into the financial piece of this, Julie, I realized I forgot to ask you, how did you originally connect with your broker? Was this through a referral in your network, or did you go out and like seek a broker on the internet and just happen to find a
Yeah.
great fit?
So this was back in 2022. So Facebook was a little bit different than it is right now, but I was a part of some very active subscription box entrepreneur groups, and we would share information like that in there. And so one of my colleagues, she had recently sold her subscription box business, and I asked her, did you do this on your own or did you use a broker? So she was able to give me a personal referral. Now, the broker that I used no longer does that type of business. She still does M&A. She still is a broker, but she niched down specifically to brick and mortar spa industry. So she doesn't take subscription box businesses anymore for sale. But at the time she did, lucky for me, and it was a really good fit.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that is a key takeaway for our listeners, is that whether or not you ever go for it, but if you are even slightly curious about selling or buying a business, I think one of the best moves you can make early on is to build your network around people who deal in this type of scenario. I think just the broader your network, the more you learn, and the better prepared you will be if you ever decide to take that action step. Also, I think it'd be helpful for our listeners, Julie, if you could help them understand. I know every broker is different, but in general, like what would the expectation be in terms of their commission fee? Like, how does that fee structure typically work? So if someone's thinking about it, they can kind of better, rationalize in their head whether or not it'd be worthwhile for them to pursue a broker.
I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was in the low teens. And when I negotiated, if I were to bring a buyer to the table, I believe I got it down to 10%. And in my mind, I didn't know one way or another, is that high, is that low? I did some research, and when I did the math, it made sense to me that it was worth it for me. So a lot of people will do this on their own through Biz Buy Sell, and they'll kind of bypass some of that. But with it being such an exchange of money, an exchange of assets, like when it has to do with taxes, I do not play.
It pays to pay the professionals, especially I think your first go around. Like,
Yeah.
we relied so heavily on our attorney and my accounting team when I went to go buy a business. There were just so many things, even within due diligence, that we would not have known to ask for had we not had some sort of external guidance. So exactly to your point, Julie, whether it's a broker or other professionals who are familiar in M&A, which stands for mergers and acquisitions, by the way, for anyone who's like, what's that? Anyone who's in that field, I think, is going to be essential, especially your first time around. Carol, for you, when you started to be part of that vetting process, is there anything that you would impart on our listeners in terms of things that you feel like, okay, if I had gotten some of this together early on, it could have actually expedited the vetting process, or maybe just something that you didn't think you would need to have prepared in the vetting process? Anything come to mind that you would want to share?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A resource that we did use that I'm actually glad that we did is, so we didn't have anyone represent us per se, and you don't need to, right? In any of this, you don't need to, but it can be a good idea too, as you just outlined. But we did hire
To hear the rest of this episode and unlock weekly subscriber-only content and community access, join us as a premium subscriber at cubicletoceo.co/podcast. The link is below in our show notes.